Zheng He was born in 1371 in the Yunnan province, at the time under Mongolian rule. He was raised a Muslim. Both Zheng He's father and grandfather did the lengthy pilgrimage from their homeland to Mecca in the Arabian Peninsula. Their travels and their stories they brought back home aroused his interest in other lands.
In 1381, the armed forces of the Chinese emperor invaded Yunnan, and in the turmoil of the war, Zheng He's father was killed, and Zheng He himself captured when he was only 10 years old. He was sent to Nanjing to serve in Prince Chu Di's household. After Chu Di had acquired the throne, he almost immediately began a variety of ambitious projects. His mission was to relocate the Chinese capital to the north to Beijing.
New capital, he built what is known today as the enormous compound of the Forbidden City, which spans over 1,600,000 square feet.
Also decided to protect his empire by restoring the Chinese wall, which had been neglected by his predecessors, and to repair the channel that connected the north of China with its southern parts. However, his second largest challenge was his massive effort to build a giant fleet.
To do that, he added 1,681 vessels to the original fleet and 250 nine-mast treasure ships, 1,350 patrol ships, 400 warships, and 400 freighters to transport food and animals. He developed plans to use the fleets to travel and to chart maps. He also wanted to establish bases for star observation with foreign nations. He intended to increase trade and cultural exchange by sending scholars and merchants and receiving their foreign counterparts from abroad.
The resources used could have easily been put to work in a giant military machinery that could have defeated and conquered most of its neighbors. However, he did not understand his mission as such. As the representative of the heavens on earth, the role of a Chinese emperor was traditionally the role of one who preserved the balance of the forces around him.
Things needed to be kept in harmony. Violence that comes with conquest destroys this fragile equilibrium and ultimately causes loss and suffering. This mindset went in line with Zheng He's own beliefs. As a Muslim, he had been taught that the middle path is a general principle of behavior. He was raised to treat the poor kindly, to extend his hands to those in need, as well as to oppose injustice. This, paired with his willingness to serve the emperor to his best abilities, enabled him to achieve the difficult goal of forming alliances with faraway nations. As a young adult, Zheng He was said to have been impressively tall, about 6.5 feet. Under the prince's guardianship, he learned how to fight in the military. Over time, he also became a very close confidant of the prince, and when the latter became emperor of the Ming dynasty in China, he promoted Zheng He because of his well-known honest personality and good judgment.
Therefore, he assigned Zheng He to gather an amount of ships and travel to India in order to trade. As a result, Zheng He took a fleet of 317 600-feet-long ships.
This would be the start of his 7 voyages, a lifelong of traveling. On his first journey, Zheng He took as many as 6 huge treasure ships and 28,000 men.
There were many soldiers for protection, as well as diplomatic and medical personnel, astronomers, and scholars of many specialities, but also scholars of Islam.
It is notable that even in terms of today's standards, this was an enormous mobilization of human work, power, and equipment.
The Bao or treasure ships of China, had 9 masts that were located on 400-feet decks. They were considered the largest wooden ships built of their time, which caused the ships sailed by the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama to dwarf in comparison, as well as the Santa Maria of Columbus, which is only 85 feet long.
The mission of this impressive fleet was to honor the allies and vassal states of the Chinese Empire with an exchange of gifts and to foster the diplomatic ties of friendship and mutual understanding. Another more noble goal was to gather and exchange knowledge and information. During his first mission, Zheng He turned with his fleet to Calicut in India, and while passing Sumatra, he used the power of his fleet to take down a pirate chief who was terrorizing the people of the region. Generally, during all his voyages, military interventions were very limited to few occasions on which he was trying to resolve cases of infringement on others' right or in self-defense.
After the first journey, Chu Di was very pleased with Zheng He. This time, Zheng He decided to reduce his fleet to 250 ships, saying that more will be unnecessary.
He soon arrived at Malacca in modern-day Malaysia, traded his goods, and took new merchandise and merchants on board for China. Malacca had a significant Chinese Muslim population, and Zheng He supported them by helping them erect mosques and organizing the community, leaving some of the scholars he brought with him. When he heard that the people of Malacca were being threatened by Siam, modern-day Thailand, he decided to use his power to protect them. In the name of the Ming government, he declared that they would be protected for the next 117 years.
Next, Zheng He went to Cambodia. In Cambodia, Zheng He found himself amazed by the local architectural style. And when he arrived in Kampong, Zheng He built the Wat Nokkur temple to honor the emperor.
Although Zheng He was a Muslim himself, he did not hesitate to donate to the local people temples and shrines for the worship of their own religion to honor the emperor, as gifts to the locals or as symbols of gratefulness for the successful journey of his non-Muslim crew.
Soon the fleet traveled to Calicut, modern-day India. He arrived at night in Ceylon, Sri Lanka, and met a chief named Alakanakra. He was the king of Sri Lanka, who refused to pay his tribute to the Chinese emperor but soon invited Zheng He to his palace.
Alankara had a plan. He plotted to trap Zheng He in his castle while attacking and taking over his fleet. Zheng He, however, anticipated Alankara's plan and took him prisoner in his own castle. With the leader detained, the attack on the fleet failed, and Alankara lost his throne.
In the third journey, which started on December 12, 1410, they were going to travel to Hormuz, an island located near Iran. There he continued to Tanzania, Africa, from where he brought a rare gift for the emperor, a giraffe.
This would be the first voyage Ma Huan would join. He was an interpreter for Arabic and a Muslim convert who later became known for his own documentation of the voyages he participated in. He wrote the book Ying Ye Shenglen, which is considered by sinologists worldwide as a primary source for the history of the Ming dynasty's naval exploration. In his fourth and fifth voyage, Zheng He traveled from China to India, then to Thailand, going past Indonesia. He stopped by Iran and likely made the Muslim pilgrimage from there to Saudi Arabia. He also traded with African countries, for example, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan.
In the sixth journey, Zheng He returned all the foreign ambassadors back to their home countries, China.
On his seventh journey, he revisited all the place until his death, which is assumed to have occurred in Calicut, India. Zheng He's voyages left many marks on the local populations. In Kenya, a tribe called the Famao claimed Chinese lineage, and in securing Indonesia, Zheng He's memory is revered in the Buddhist temples of Tekakse and Sampangkong. In Malaysia, another population is said to go back to the marriage of a Ming princess, Han Lei Po, to the Sultan Mansur Shah, as a mark of friendship between Malacca and China. The princess arrived with 500 sons of ministers and several hundred handmaidens who intermarried with the locals over time and resulted in a population referring themselves to the Baba&Nyonya.
In Malaysia, a museum in honor of Zheng He called the Cultural Museum of Zheng He was opened in Malacca. He is considered to have contributed significantly to the rise of the Malaccan Empire. Zheng He helped building up Malacca, which was described as backward and small at the time. Islam had started to spread in Southeast Asia a few hundred years before through trade relations with Arabia and India. He actively supported the continued growth of the Chinese Muslim communities in the Palembang and Java, the Malay Peninsula, and the Philippines.
Several steels have been discovered in China, one in Taijing and one in Nanjing. The first was named Deed of Foreign Connection and Exchange, while the second one contains an account of Zheng He's mission. We have traversed over 100,000 li of vast ocean, and have beheld great ocean waves, rising as high as the sky and swelling endlessly. Xuanguto, a history professor and scholar, remarked, "The Europeans started a storm of blood with their long voyages, robbing and pillaging along the way. Zheng He was fundamentally different from them." As an admiral, diplomat, soldier, and trader, Zheng He is a giant of Chinese and Muslim history. Almost a century before Columbus, at a time when China was the richest and most advanced country in the world, Zheng He sailed further than anyone before him, at the head of an armada bigger than the combined fleets of all Europe. It is undisputed that he contributed heavily to the creations of new navigational maps and the spread of Chinese culture. In his best-selling book, 1421, former British naval officer Gavin Menzies claims Zheng He's ships ended up even reaching America. While some specialists agree, most believe many of Menzies' claims are still lacking evidence. In China, historians have begun to unearth Zheng He's memory and to finally grant him the important place that he deserves in the Chinese history, as the explorer and facilitator for the peaceful exchange between faiths, cultures, and nation that he was.